Welcome to Sunder City, where the grass is green and the girls are pretty. No, I'm just kidding. What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome to my July TBR here on the Nerdy Narrative. I am going to show and or talk about all of the books that I'm planning to read and review for the month of July. I hope you're interested. I'm still working my way through the SPFBO 8 stack. I read 2 in June. I've got 2 on deck for this month. I'll finish the final 2 in August so that I can pick my choice to put forth to Bookworm, who will then read it along with those chosen by my fellow judges and see who we are going to put forth to go on to the next round. Since I led with SPFBO, let's talk about those 2 books. The first one I plan to read will be Eve of Snows by L. James Rice. This is the first book in the Sundering of the Gods series. The premise of this one has me extremely interested in reading it. It's something to do with 500 years previous in this world. There was this great sundering where they banished the gods and they made all of the people forget. It's called the Great Forgetting. They forgot about these gods. Something has started happening. People such as priests and warriors are being sent to look into it, but there's a group, a religious group, that is set on summoning the gods back into this realm. I just can't wait. There was mention of prophecy somewhere in there, and you guys know I am a sucker for anything having to do with prophecy, so I'm very excited to read this one and let you guys know what I think. The next book I'll be reading for SPFBO is The Lady of the Mark by Alex Hansen, which I believe is also the start of a series called The Men of the Mark. The Men of the Mark is a guild of warriors. Up until now, it had only consisted of men. In this book, we're going to have our first woman who's going to be a member of this guild, which of course is going to lead to a lot of strife, a lot of hardship on her behalf. But I believe this one's going to be a bit of a romance story because she ends up falling in love with one of the guys that is maybe her mentor in this one. It's going to be shenanigans, and I honestly believe that I'm going to be here for it. So I can't wait to check that one out. It's been a long time since I read any kind of romance story, at least one that might get a little in depth. I don't know if that one's going to be that, but I kind of had a hankering for it. So maybe it'll scratch that itch. If it doesn't, maybe I'll have to find me something a little more steamier to put on the TBR for August. We'll have to wait and find out. Next on the list, this one I was actually contacted by the author to see if I was interested in reading and reviewing it. It's called Midnight in the City of the Carrion Kid. To be blatantly honest with you, there was the one thing in a book description that is guaranteed to get me every time. A talking cat. I don't know what my obsession is with talking cats, but my gut told me to take a chance on Karen Hewler's The Splendid City because of a talking cat. So I'm going to go with that same gut feeling with this one. It sounds so cool though. Other than having a talking cat, just listen to the first couple of lines of the book description. There's a city that occupies the space between life and death. Once a wondrous realm, it has been corrupted by a malevolent presence known as the Carrion Kid, a demon that crossed over on the soul of a young boy. I mean, that is just screaming at me to read this book. I want to say this one is up for some sort of award or contest. Something's happening around this title, so I'm really excited to get a chance to read it. Besides the description and the talking cat, the cover is another thing that really drew me in. I'm just a fan of these types of cover. I want to say I saw one similar. I think it's called The Blackstone Heart. Is that maybe by an author named Michael J. Fletcher? It's on my TBR. That's all I know, and it's on there because of the cover. So this one is similar to it. I'm a fan of it. I had to read it. Let's talk about my most anticipated read for the month of July. That's going to be Stephen Arion's The Warrior. It's the second book in his Quest for Heroes duology. I read The Coward recently. Absolutely loved it. It is the most beautifully written story of a flawed character. In fantasy, it does not happen where a hero suffers post-traumatic effects from battling monsters, from killing the big bad evil. For a fantasy story wreathed in magic and lore, in the midst of it, just to have the humanity of Calcressia just under a telescope. Oh my goodness. It was phenomenal. I loved it. I cannot wait to share my thoughts with you on The Warrior to see if it's one you guys should be picking up. Next up is a story I will be buddy reading with my buddy Una from the Codex Cantina, Hilda Hilst with My Dog Eyes. I've never read anything by Hilda before, but Una has recently read a few things by her. He's really enjoyed it. He's found her work very intriguing and interesting, compared her to Clarice Lispector, and that's where he got me. That's where he set the hook. I had to discover it for myself. So we'll be reading this one together this month, and of course I'll be sharing my thoughts on it and whether or not I agree that she stands up there with Clarice Lispector. With My Dog Eyes is an account of an unraveling of sanity of language. After experiencing a vision of what he calls a clear-cut unhoped for, college professor Amos struggles to reconcile himself with life as a father, a husband, and a member of the university with its meetings, ass-kissers, pointless rivalries, gratuitous resentments, jealous talk, and megalomaniacs. That's going to be a fun one, I think, to dissect with Una. So more on that one later in the month. Let's talk about what my patron pick of the month is, and that is Luke Arnold's The Last Smile in Sunder City. I have the first two in this trilogy. It was sent to me by my patron Ev a while back. She read it, liked it, sent it to me to enjoy. The third book came out recently, or is coming out recently. No, it came out because I saw the cover and it was so beautiful. I love these covers. If you haven't seen these up close, this is what they look like. When I spun the wheel of patrons and it landed on Gail, she asked me if I read this series, and I said not yet, but I actually had the first two books. And she said, well, that works out perfect. We can buddy read it. So let's see, what is this one about? The magic is gone, but the monsters remain. I'm Fetch Phillips, just like it says on the window. There are a few things you should know before you hire me. Number 1, sobriety costs extra. Oh, I'm gonna love this. Sounds like an urban fantasy. Number 2, my services are confidential. Okay. Number 3, I don't work for humans. Well, that is interesting. It's nothing personal, I'm human myself, but after what happened to the magic, it's not the humans who need my help. Well, color me intrigued. Okay. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what that's about. Next up, I'm going to show you an arc that I have here to read and review. The author emailed me a while back, asked me if I was interested. I said absolutely. He's like, all right, I'm gonna have my publisher send you a copy. And guys, look at the cover of this one. It's called An Appetite Factory by John Gingrich. The cover is amazing. If you've ever talked to me with any regularity or length, or if you're in my Discord, you know I love 3 things: reading, talking, and eating. All too familiar dystopia where public perception precedes reality and our identities are defined by what we consume. Yep, it's a book about eating, but not just any type of eating. There's more. As head of the crisis management team at a Madison Avenue PR firm, Leonard Lundell spends his day counseling executives whose reputations have been ruined by scandal. Olivia Pope, anyone? But Leonard has been managing a strange and debilitating crisis of his own that's held him captive his entire adult life. Leonard likes to eat soap, pencils, paint chips, anything with no nutritional value. For years, he's kept his compulsion hidden behind a professional veneer. But when he signs an important client, an antisocial file clerk unwittingly discovers Leonard's secret and blackmails him into accommodating her own bizarre culinary indulgences. Oh my gosh, I am so looking forward to reading that one. It's just going to be absolutely hysterical, I think. I also pre-ordered the audiobook for The Law by Jim Butcher, which is a novella that ties into the Harry Dresden world. I have absolutely no idea what it's even about. I just know it's Jim Butcher, it's Dresden, and that means I have to consume it. So I've got that on pre-order, so I'll be listening to that at some point during the month of July, seeing what all that's going to be about, because I'm sure it's going to tie in to whatever our next book in that series is going to be about, which hopefully isn't going to be too much longer before we start getting wind of when that's going to come down the wire. And then for the thriller that got voted for our our pick of the month for July for the Wine and Crime Book Club. That is Riley Sager's The Last Time I Lied. I am so excited. I've never read Riley Sager. I have wanted to for years. I even have some of his books, but I haven't read them yet. This will be my first time to experience his writing. I love the premise of this one. From what I recall, there was a girl who was at a summer camp, and 3 of the people that were in her cabin snuck out, and they were never seen or heard from again. We skip forward however many years, and somehow something happens. Emma finds herself back at this camp where history repeats itself. Y'all, I know this trope has been done many, many times. I don't care how many times it's been done. I don't care how many I've read. This is one of those tropes I will read and reread and reread time and time again. I never get tired of it. I just love it. I just love it. That's just all there is to it. So I'm really excited to read that one. And then to just run through some short stuff, I'll be continuing in the Joan Didion read-along that is hosted by Kate from the Literary Apothecary. This is a collection of nonfiction works by Joan Didion. We tell ourselves stories in order to live. We read one nonfiction essay a month. So we'll be reading one of these. I will also be working in more of Zora Neale Hurston's nonfiction essays from her collection, You Don't Know Us Negroes. And then I have a new collection I received to review. That one is called Corpse Honey, which is a banquet of gruesome tales by, I want to say the author's name is Michael J. Piccolo. I'm probably saying his name incorrectly, but either his publisher or someone, a group, emailed me and asked me if I'd be interested to read and review this collection. Since I'm one of those crazy kids that likes to read a short story every morning to get her day started, you can never have too many collections on hand to read from. So I said yes, even though I saw some very low reviews. So I'm going to see what my opinion is of these stories, and I'll be happy to share those with you as I make my way through that collection. And then, of course, we can't forget our Stephen King short story read-along hosted by Jake from The Bookish Drummer. We will be starting a new collection, Dreamscapes and Nightmares? Is that it? Or is it Nightmares and Dreamscapes? It's those 2 words in one of those 2 orders. I'm excited to get into another collection of Stephen King and see how his writing style continues to evolve as we go through, because I believe we're reading them all in publication order. We've read Night Shift now and Skeleton Crew. This will be the 3rd one. I'm excited. I love old Stephen King. Lastly, if I have time, I want to read Bitter Sun by Beth Lewis. This was highly recommended to me by my friend, the Cat Lady Book Nook Penny. She's in a lot of the bookish Discord, so I know a lot of you know who she is. She recommended this one to me. I have forgotten what the premise of it was, but when she told me about it, I read it, and I thought, that's going to be a surefire win for me. I know it's one that's hard to get a hold of. I know I checked with Audible and my library, and I think the only place I could actually find it was buying it from some third party somewhere, which I'm pretty sure I bought that book a month ago and I don't have it yet. You know, maybe I should wrap this up and go look into that and see what happened there. You know you buy too many books when you can't keep up with what you have purchased versus what you haven't yet. Guys, I am so excited to see what these stories are going to hold for me in the month of July. I hope you're excited to hear my thoughts on them. Let me know down below if you've read any of these, what you think my favorite might be. If there's one you've read that you think I might not like, give your girl a heads up in those comments. Guys, thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.